So we're going to do that. And I want to share the screen here. There we go. Okay, so this is our town hall, and I want to give you a little history about how we came about. So we're members of the Los Angeles South Chamber of Commerce, and this is a part of the Hope Foundation. And a lot of us are business owners, but also our parents. So the purpose of this group was to have a platform for parents and caretakers and grandparents.
Right back here. Pull those pants out. Don't move.
Okay, let's, if everyone can mute their lines, please. Because when the quarantine came about, parents had to pivot and really make a swift change on how we educate our kids. So a lot of times our kids in the South Central, South LA area were left with needs unmet. Technology, viable internet, even looking at the their home environment. You know, I have a screen so you don't see what's going on in the back, but a lot of kids were embarrassed about that. So we were kind of just sharing, brainstorming on what we could do or for that. So that's how we came. And I would like to introduce our CFO, our president, Dexter, to say a few words, and we'll move on from there.
Very good. Thank you, Larcy, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining this evening. Like Larcy said, you know, we were thrust into this platform of this parent perspective platform because, again, last year when the pandemic hit and the stay-at-home orders came about, you know, all of a sudden parents had to become teachers and homeschooling, and you know the students were like, they were like, we don't know what to do. And then after about a week of trying to keep the kids on a regiment schedule, you know, I was hearing all kinds of experiences, you know, from some of our members that have school-age children at home. And, you know, it was just becoming more frequent that, you know, kids were staying up to 2 o'clock in the morning, getting up at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. And then as the time progressed, some parents just threw their hands up and said, you know what, do what you want to do, because as long as you stay out of my way, I'll stay out of your way. But in reality, that is not a good scenario on both parts, because again, you know, are the kids really getting their lessons that they need? And are they going to be able to, you know, meet all the requirements in order to graduate and then go on and to higher learning? So thank you, Larcy. Thank you, Vernell. Thank you, Sean. And we had Cecil, one of the founders or the first persons that we formed this committee with. Now we have Nancy, and good evening, Nancy. Looking very nice and dapper, Nancy. So good evening, Nancy. So we brought Nancy in as one of our educational ambassadors for her experience. And then now we're going to be bringing in Brother Eugene as well with his educational background and experience as well. So again, thank you all for joining tonight. We appreciate you all. We have some guest speakers tonight. So again, thank you, Nancy. I was looking for Tio. Did anybody see Tio on the call? Brother Jane, you see Tio?
He has an intention to be on, so hopefully he'll be getting on any moment.
Okay, well, TikTok goes to clock, so I'm going to hand it over to you, Brother Jane. If you could just basically just kind of give a brief overview of what Tio is doing over there. We just wanted to kind of, you know, get the parents informed about some of the projects that he has going on.
Okay, well, we have formed the beginning of a partnership with Mr. Tio DeRusso, who has a electrical training program that he has set up in tandem with a school in Torrance. And so he has some 20 or more students, high school and beyond, who are currently training. He's state certified and they'll be receiving a state certification. And then thereafter, his class is scheduled to be over in February, as I understand. And then a new cohort is going to begin. And he has asked our chamber to assist him in spreading the word out that they're in a place to be ready to receive new candidates to continue and to grow the program. He's helped us understand that in the world of trade, the electrical world is a very prestigious and even sought after training. And their training is at a greatly reduced price than ordinarily you would have to pay in some other city programs in deference to people who have assisted them because they have targeted populations that don't ordinarily seek the training or are available for the training. So we are very, very excited as a chamber to assist and to help grow this opportunity because this is more than seeking a job, as quite often we assist people to do. This falls in the category of a career, and actually a very lucrative career. So we've come to find out the people that have this certification earn a very, very healthy income and are able to create a lifestyle that grows a family and life. So that's kind of the way I understand it. Are we good, Dexter?
Yep, absolutely. Excellent. So thank you, Brother Jane. Jane is one of our ambassadors with the chamber. And like I said, he brought in Tio, and again, from the educational standpoint. So we'll be bringing Tio back on this platform, Larcy and Sean and Vernell, to partner with some of our other members in some of the work that they're doing as well. So again, good evening. Thank you all for joining. We are about providing hope, helping other people every day. So that's what today's platform is going to be about. And back to you, Larcy. God bless you.
You're muted.
I did forget, we did have another young lady, and I'm gonna allow her 3 minutes because we do want to have our speakers to speak. I want to ask Genesis if she would unmute. She wanted to talk about the redistricting. So give you a few minutes and then put your information in the chat. So if people want to get that information, they know where to find that.
Thank you, Ms. Freeman, for the opportunity to be here tonight. Just quickly, my name is Genesis Coronado. I am the Outreach Director for the LAUSD Redistricting Commission. As many of you are aware, every 10 years when the census data comes out, the districts for elected representatives have to be redrawn to take into consideration the population changes in the regions. And so that happens on the federal, state, and local and education, in this case, LAUSD as well. And so the commission's purpose, the commission is tasked with drawing these maps while considering the community's input and making recommendations to the LA City Council for the approval of these maps. And when I talk about these maps and districts, is the districts in which the Board of Education, the board members will be elected to. And so my responsibility is to engage as many stakeholders, parents, families, community members in this process. Redistricting can be a very wonky topic to discuss. So I appreciate this opportunity to speak today with you all. I know a lot of you have connections to families and parents and can help me spread the word about this important process and crucial engagement opportunity for our community. We have 3 upcoming public hearings: October 4th at 6:30, October 6th at 6:30, and October 9th at 11 a.m. The commission will be releasing draft maps on September 22nd. And so we need the community to provide us input with regards to how these maps look and whether these maps are drawn considering the current neighborhood boundaries and the communities of interest. So I'll be linking the website for the commission on the message chat here, chat box. You can also follow the commission on social media at Redistrict LAUSD, where we'll be posting all of our upcoming meetings. All of our meetings are also posted on our YouTube channel and our website, to offer that transparency to the public. Once again, these upcoming 3 public hearings are a key opportunity for the community to speak up with regards to how these maps are drawn, because these maps will be in place for the next 10 years, and they will represent, they will represent the opportunity, for the community to be able to elect representatives that actually speak the language of the community, that actually will best represent the community's interests, right? So how these maps are drawn will have a huge impact to who can run in these districts, and ultimately who can represent the communities at the Board of Education level. And, even more further than that, what policies, right, and what advocacy efforts will those elected officials actually consider. And so, once again, this is a very crucial process that we hope all of you will engage in, and will help spread the word about this important process. So I'll make sure to leave my information if there's any opportunity for me to provide a presentation to a group of families, parents, students. I'm more than open to hosting that, especially the education piece about redistricting. A lot of our community members don't really understand what that is. And so it's really important to be able to educate our community members, to empower them to be able to participate in this process. So thank you, Ms. Freeman, for the opportunity.
Thank you, Genesis. Without further ado, I would like to introduce our education ambassador, Ms. Nancy Rene. Got to unmute, Nancy.
I just did. Can you hear me? Good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to welcome all of you to the town hall. And I'm really appreciative of the fact that we have 2 members of the LA Unified School District staff here to make a presentation. We have Dr. Alfonso Webb. He's the Senior Director for the Division of School Culture, Climate and Safety, a signature model of collaboration and support, ensuring Los Angeles Unified stakeholders have a strong sense of safety and belonging. We have Eric Hansen, who's the Executive Director for Strategic Initiatives, Office of the Chief of Schools, Los Angeles Unified School District, and you can see a little bit more of their bios on the screen. So welcome, gentlemen. I'm going to hope that you can make your remarks in about 20 minutes, because I do want to give our audience an opportunity to ask questions. And I'm asking that those of you who have questions, please put your questions in the chat, and then Larcy and I can look at them and ask those questions so that we get as many viewpoints heard as possible. So Dr. Webb, Mr. Hansen, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. And Eric will kick it off for us.
All right, going to be sharing the screen here momentarily. So hello, everyone. And hopefully you can see a PowerPoint coming up on your screen. Thumbs up.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So again, Eric Hansen, super excited to be here. I work with Dr. Webb. We do a lot of work together. So our departments definitely coordinate. And I have served in education for a number of years as a substitute teacher and a principal and community of schools administrator, most recently in Venice area, where I had 19 schools from elementary, middle, high school, and just love what I do. I've been blessed, and I now work with the Office of the Chief of Schools, and happy to be here. Dr. Webb?
Yes, thank you. And this is my 32nd year in the district. I had the I had the ability or fortunate encounter of having the opportunity to work with Miss McFrazier there. I see you there. Good to see you. I haven't seen her since retirement. But yes, I've worked South LA, Watts, East LA, West LA, Hollywood, and a variety of positions, starting with teacher assistant all the way up to my current role as senior director. So glad to be here. And I'm sorry to hear about the passing of Mr. McGlynn. He's a close friend of the family, and just glad to see that these efforts are continuing. So we want to make sure that we provide more than just information on our website. So we always are open to providing feedback and information in this type of forum. So thank you, and I'm glad to be here.
And so as part of our preparation, I'll say, and I want to say also, Ms. Freeman, happy birthday. I know it's coming up this week. I'm with you. My birthday was Monday, so this was our week. But as part of our preparation, appreciate the team meeting with us to give us, a bit of background. And so we prepared a presentation about the opening of school, really keying in on also safety factors that we have at school sites, and also sharing about our high school students, what's out there to help our high school students, and also tutoring, and just try to answer those questions with our presentation. So I've set a timer, and Dr. Webb, we're going to be ready to roll. So, okay, so with the opening of school, just a few slides, just see the opening of school and how it went. So we want to thank, of course, our entire school community, our parents, our students, our staff, our teachers, our principals, and everyone who has a role in welcoming our families back. Just some great photos of the beginning of school and welcome everyone back. We got our superintendent in the lower left-hand corner, Megan Riley. And as far, we got our big kids here at a high school with the opening of school. You can see everyone's wearing a mask. So we go through. And this is over in local district West. This was at Webster Middle School. Welcome everybody back. And of course, it takes a big team, not only just at the school site, but everyone from food services to transportation to many departments that go into making sure our kids have a productive and wonderful day at school. And so the first part of our presentation really focuses on safety. We wanted to share all that we have implemented in terms of our safety requirements for our school sites and district sites. I'll hand it over to Dr. Webb.
Thank you so much. I definitely appreciate it. So one of the things that we've understood just since COVID-19 hit, we understood the devastating impacts, not only on families, but also communities and the concerns or fears. And so we've always made it a point to ensure that safety is a priority within a district. So whether it was coming back as a hybrid where we had a portion of the students returning, or to now our full return from this fall, we've instilled the highest level of safety standards throughout the nation. And so we have other school districts looking at how we were able to do this. And the proof is in the proof that it's working. Our efforts are working is basically it's in our numbers. It's in our rates of COVID-19 are much lower than those in the county, significantly lower. And so that shows that what we're doing is actually working. So you guys have heard of the face mask requirements. Face masks are required not only indoors, but also outdoors on campus, which is a little higher than the LA County Department of Public Health. Because we know how kids can be. If they're outdoors, they may want to stand a little closer. If they're eating, they may want to try to sit closer. But what our efforts have been is to maximize physical distancing in our campuses. The other piece we wanted to look at will be the enhanced cleaning and ventilation. Once we understood that COVID-19, based on the research, based on the studies and our advice from our medical team, we realized that it's primarily spread through air ducts, not air ducts, but through air droplets. And so understanding that, we made it a point to secure or procure as many MERV 13 filters as we could before before there was actually a shortage on those filters. So each classroom has a MERV 13 filter or higher, and there's enhanced cleaning in the schools. In terms of testing and vaccinations, we were one of the first in the nation to instill weekly testing, COVID-19 testing throughout the entire district. And so this is an example of some of the work that we're doing in terms of testing for all students and staff, as well as contractors. So we understand that whether you're vaccinated or not, we're requiring testing for all persons that are showing up in person, and it's weekly. In addition to that, we are following those policies and protocols from the LA County Department of Public Health. I'm on weekly calls with Dr. Ferrer and others from the county in terms of monitoring any surges and any specific incidents, as well as exposure management as we look at potential areas that we can tighten up on, as well as learning from other districts. So on our website, on the link below, you're able to see some of the latest information from the district. As you may know, protocols and guidance comes out at the spur of the moment, sometimes without notice. And we basically are checking with LA County Department of Public Health, checking their site daily to make sure that we are flexible enough to implement those particular practices. Part of our screening involves a daily health pass, or a daily pass. And you guys may have heard about this. The first day was a little shaky, just Microsoft developed this program for us and it's actually working, but we have multiple ways of screening our students. And parents are given the opportunity to submit whether a student has symptoms, and if there are no symptoms, then they will be admitted to come into the campus. Or if they have not been exposed to someone that's positive or close contact with a positive case, then they are able to come into school. So what you see here is one of our kindergarten students that is showing the barcode, not a barcode, but this is a QR code that can be scanned in. We also have barcodes that can be utilized, as well as searching the names, which is the longer process. But this serves as almost like a fast pass. And this is one of the things that you won't find in many other districts because they haven't really put in the resources and the efforts and the into testing and making sure that things are as safe as possible. So what you find here is a strategy and supports from our medical team, as well as our professionals within the district to ensure that we have the safest schools possible. And now I will turn it over to Mr. Hansen for the next piece.
All right, so I'm going to share a little bit about student vaccinations, and this information is hot off the press with our board action last week. We require vaccinations of our staff. I'll begin with that, but most recently, having vaccinations for children that are 12 and up. And again, just going back to the, Dr. Webb had mentioned about meeting with Dr. Ferreira, just make sure we have the latest health guidance. But looking at the science, it's clear that vaccinations are an essential part of protecting our students and making sure that we have the safest in-person program in the country. In the next slide, I'm going to share a little bit about how our families, the different options, if you have a child that is, again, age eligible, right? Our youngsters in elementary, there's not a vaccine for them at this point, but for 12 and older, our age eligible students, we have mobile teams that are going to middle and high schools. And so the principals know those dates and can communicate that with their families. So they would know that the team would be there and be there to vaccinate students. Another option, if parents want, they can go to, of course, our stationary vaccination sites. We have at least 2 per local district. And a third option could be they could go to their family physician or pediatrician or any kind of a healthcare partner if they didn't want to vaccinate at one of our school sites. Also want to share our website here. And I know Dr. Webb had touched on Daily Pass, but on the left side of the screen, I just wanted to share like how our parents could book an appointment. So using Daily Pass is very easy, and they can go on just to book that appointment for their child at the school site. And we have many families that already have had their, again, 12 and up, had their child vaccinated. And what we're asking our families to do is to upload their vaccination record to Daily Pass. That way there is a record of the vaccination that we have. And this is also for staff. So I uploaded my vaccination status to the same Daily Pass. So again, these are 2 areas where we are helping our families to be able to use Daily Pass. And some of the frequently asked questions that we've received just recently, there is an FAQ, again, that you can see in blue there on our district website. But some of the most frequently asked questions that have come up have been about, do we need to give consent? And yes, we do need parents to give consent. And they would do that on the Daily Pass. They'd also go log on to the Daily Pass and fill out the form right there to give consent. And we've had questions about what, after the first dose, will the second dose be scheduled? And yes, it would be. And then when our students are required to be vaccinated. So that's not till January. But what we're asking right now is to get that first dose. And the second, I know, Dr. Webb, we've got our asking our athletes, currently in all of the sports right now to get their first dose. But this is a very big campaign, and we are going across all of LA Unified to make sure that we have these mobile sites at our schools.
And just one thing, just to chime in, with regards to the comment that was shared about the athletes, we're finding that throughout the county, students that are participating in athletics are coming down with the outbreaks. Sorry. Okay, thank you. Yeah, so the athletics push and extracurricular activities was a major push throughout the county just due to the fact that a lot of the outbreaks were coming from those particular activities. So within the district, we also are pushing that.
And so if you go to the LA Unified website, just right when you go to the website, there's a one on the banner on the front page of the website, there's a part for COVID. So you don't necessarily have to write down the website here, but once you go on LA Unified, you'll see it right there on the front page. But you also want to share that, we do provide for our families also, not just our students. So we do have partner run vaccination centers with our healthcare partners, and just want to make sure that our families know that this is available to our families also. And Dr. Webb's going to walk us through a little bit about what happens at a school site if your child tests positive or has been exposed to COVID-19.
Mm-hmm. So thank you very much. Part of this, this is called our exposure management plan. So lately we've had some recent updates. Some of you guys may have heard about the numbers of students that were quarantined due to close contact or exposure. So these are the actual breakdown, what you'll see. I'm not going to read through the whole slide, but I'll just share with you is that on the day 1, if we find that a student is positive, the students will need to be picked up. They will be escorted to a designated area on campus with school personnel until a parent can pick them up. And if they are positive, they would then need to retest. If they are not vaccinated, they will remain home until day 10. If you see in the blue shaded, I think that's blue there, it looks like it's blue. If you see there, it refers to more of the specifics regarding positive cases. If it's unvaccinated at the bottom, it's more of if you have vaccinated students. The practice is shorter actual quarantine or isolation. It's isolation if it's someone that's a positive case. It's quarantine if it's close contact. But it's a shorter period that they have to stay out. But the idea is that regardless of whether they're vaccinated or not, we want to ensure that the kids are safe, and we want to make sure that there's no disruption to their instruction. So continuity of learning must take place, and we have strategies and supports in place to ensure that the kids will continue to learn, as well as be given credit for being at school. The next slide shows additional information and resources and what to do. A lot of times parents want to know what are the specific policies, what are the guidelines. Students will be expected to complete their assignments. Teachers will provide in-person instruction, as well as they'll provide access to a virtual environment. So the other piece of this is that sometimes there's a request to do a complete independent studies, and that's something we'll talk about later. But the idea is that if there's a short-term absence for students, we want to make sure that the students don't fall behind. We understand that the impacts of the virtual environment over this past year and a half, and so we understand how important it is to have our kids there in person. But in the event that they are close contact, which means that they have been within 6 feet of a positive case for at least 15 minutes over a 24-hour period, that's the definition of a close contact. So we want to make sure that they can still maintain their learning during that quarantine period. Absences, there's additional information here. And once again, this is a lot of information, but we want to make sure that you guys have access to this. And if you have any questions after this presentation, feel free to reach out to us. We'll give you our contact information, and we'll funnel it through through our leads here with the chamber. So we just want to make sure you guys are aware of these resources.
And this is also on our district website. And so looking at the time, we're about 17 minutes. Well, we'll pick up our pace here. We have great information that we want to share with our families. So Dr. Webb had touched on it. So we have two options for our students. We have in-person, and we have about 97% of our students in person. And again, about 3% are on independent study. This is a different program than what we had last year with distance learning, but just kind of giving out rough numbers. Again, this is a fluid program where students are enrolling, and then also some students that were in independent study have gone back to their home school for in-person. So right now we have about 15,000 students currently overall in our independent study program, and last year was about 1,300. As you can see, a big difference there. Again, this is Assembly Bill 130, because parents ask, well, how come we can't have the same thing as last year? Well, with Assembly Bill 130, we have a different option, which is independent study. So there still is synchronous time with the teacher, and on the next slide I'll show that our students who are learning from home on independent study. For our elementary kids, they do have time with the teacher, 3 hours per day, but the rest of the time it is independent study. It is independent study program. So they're working on their work. They also meet with their teacher during the week. And for attendance, their attendance is based on the work they complete. Same with our secondary students. They have 3 70-minute periods per day. And again, they meet with their teacher also during the week, and their attendance is taken as they turn their work in. So again, just a little bit about independent study. Dr. Webb, our Student Health and Human Services.
So one of the things that we've provided, in addition to additional opportunities for learning, but we've also provided additional counseling opportunities. We understand that some students may be going through some adverse experiences. Some may be dealing with trying to reconnect with other students. And, this has made it difficult for some students. I'm a parent, I understand, as was shared earlier in the meeting, you got kids that are trying to stay up during the COVID time, staying up to 2 o'clock in the morning, and to get back in the swing of things and get used to being back around with other students. So part of this is counseling support. So we have multiple approaches for counseling. We have school-wide support as well as student level support. So we have various types of available counseling efforts. So let's go ahead to the next slide. I know we're running short on time here. Additionally, we have a helpline in English and in Spanish. The Student and Family Wellness Hotline is available for parents to reach out. Should you find that you have a child that's in crisis, should you need some assistance, you want to find out what will be the best way to handle different things, this is the number to call. Additionally, we have the Parent Caregiver Roadmap that has been developed by our Office of Student Health and Human Services. And this also provides strategies for parents to reconnect with students on different levels and provide that sense of safety.
All right, so some of the questions, again, we appreciate the group helping us prepare, but what are the supports for high school students to stay on track with graduation? I know Dr. Webb was also a secondary principal, but we have a yearly individualized graduation plan, and what that is, I've done those myself. We sit with students at the high school level, as done by counselors, and they go over their classes and make sure they're on track. So if you were a junior, they're checking all of your classes. What did you take as a freshman? What did you take as a sophomore? What are you taking as a junior? And what do you need to graduate and make sure our students are on track? We have intervention at our high schools and credit recovery options. At Venice High School, we had winter session, we had spring session, summer session. We had different opportunities for students to make up classes. We also have concurrent enrollment. This is another option. I'm going to speak to Venice because I had Venice High School, but we had a partnership with community college where kids could take a community college class, and that would count for community college and it would count for high school. All right, and then where can our families find information about tutoring? Really, the best source is the school site. And those tutoring options, going to the school site counselor, because again, speaking about Venice High School, we had after school options for tutoring. And so the best source is the school site, either the administrator or the counselor. There's also the Academic Support and Achievement Program, we have a website here for our families that need additional academic support and through one-on-one or small group. And our students are familiar with Ingenuity. These are courses that our students take online, and then they meet with their teacher to go over their progress. And again, where can families find more information? Of course, at their parent center at their school site or their counselor. And looking at our district website, I know it's a massive website, but I would really just kind of key in on that parent community service part of our website, as well as our division of instruction, to look for resources for our families. And just lastly, teachers are always a good go-to, as well as our counselors and coaches. We have A through G counselors at our school sites. Beyond the Bell.
And additionally, we have Beyond the Bell, which are the after school program. And basically it's a high quality, safe, supervised academic enrichment and recreation program. So we have staff that's available to support students. And so they still have the same rigorous safety protocols in place to ensure that kids are making sure that they are not transmitting COVID-19 or doing their best to prevent that. On the next slide, I'll show you some examples for elementary, middle, and high school. There's a wide variety of enrichment for students. So the goal is to ensure that kids are engaged. There's time for them to work on homework. And then there's time for them to participate in these additional activities. We want our kids to be well-rounded and prepared for the rigors of school to career for that transition.
Thank you, Dr. Webb. And with that, we are at 25 minutes. We went 5 minutes over, but we had good information to share. Sorry about being 5 minutes over. I was timing it 25 minutes and 2 seconds.
Thank you so much. We certainly appreciate your thoughtful presentation. You really packed it with us. And I tell you, if you were teachers in the classroom, I'd have to say, wait, you got to spread this stuff out over several days. This was too much for us. But I'm going to say that in general, I know for myself, I would like to have an opportunity to read through the things that you have and perhaps contact you by email for some of the questions we might have, because there's so much. And I just picked up on one thing that I'll ask, and then I'll go back. We have a few questions in the chat, and anyone else who wants to put their questions in the chat, please do so. If we don't get to them tonight, we will certainly find a way to get your questions and concerns answered. You talked about continuity of learning, and I would like to know, you gave us all of the stuff that's going to go on with COVID and all of that. Sounds great. But how are the kids doing? They've come back after a really strange and upsetting year where they really did not have much in the way of input from teachers, because maybe they were watching class on mama's cell phone. Maybe mom works the night shift and was asleep home with the kids, but she certainly wasn't there to monitor what was going on with them. What input have you gotten from teachers in terms of how the kids are doing? Are they readjusting? Do there seem to be big gaps? Are there things that are going to make it difficult, where some kids had a decent learning environment at home and others just didn't have anything much at all? What's going on?
Now, I've checked in with the principals that I worked with previously about this, because I wanted to know what is happening at the school site, especially in the classroom with our students. And so what I have heard from our principals in working with their teachers, the students are happy to be back on the campus, that they are happy to be with their friends. Most importantly, that was like the biggest thing from the day one, happy to see their friends and make those connections again. Happy to be on the playground, on the field, back in the classroom. And I think feeling that normalcy of school and structure.
Yeah. And, you know, that's one of the things the kids got really excited about returning. The thing that we've seen is that there are some parents that are still concerned about, the safety. And so with that, we do have the online independent study, but it's about 3% of our population. It's 15,000, sounds like a lot. And it is a significant bump from the initial students that are part of City of Angels. But with that, it's only 3% of our population that are actually participating in that online approach. And so the vast majority of our students are enrolled in the full-time instruction on campus. And so, which is, what we see as an optimal environment for learning. Because the kids learn by the various groups that they're with. They learn with their class. They learn with those variety of measures to variety of techniques in the classroom of in-person instruction.
Right. One of our community members has asked, will families be able to refuse vaccination?
Yeah, I'd like to go right to the chat with Isabel. So there is a medical exemption. And again, just going on to our website, right when you go to the homepage of LA Unified, you'll see a COVID banner right there, and you can click on that and get all the information about, if you were submitting a medical exemption. Okay, and we also have a question. How do you determine the outbreak from the high school student athletes?
So the outbreaks are that's a good question. Outbreaks are actually determined by the LA County Department of Public Health. What we do on school grounds is basically we'll have a COVID-19 COVID-19 compliance task force on each particular school site, composed of a team of staff members led by the principal. They follow up to determine who the potential close contacts were of a positive case. Once we share this information with the LA County Department of Public Health, their contact tracers works directly with our community engagement team in tracking down any other persons that need to be notified. From there, students are then able to, we're able to get down to the bottom of it. And I'm sorry, I think I may have lost track of the actual question. What was your question again?
No, you got it. How do they determine the outbreak of
Oh.
student athletes?
So
So I'm just going to add on that I know that occasionally athletic teams play teams from other school districts.
Yeah.
What's happening with that? Canceled or what?
So what happens, so what the county will do is find out if people are coming from various households. They'll look at whether students have any commonalities amongst those cases. So we may have a football team that's played another football team, and we're seeing that 2 or 3 people from one particular team may have played another, and that's a close contact sport. So with those close contact sports, it is a risk, a high risk of those air droplets being spread, as if you're calling plays or if you are out there huddled and up. So it's basically a very risky environment. However, we don't want to turn around and flat out say, no, you can't play. But during, we've provided practical solutions for kids to remain safe while they're practicing.
Okay, and again, I'm going to remind people, please put your questions in the chat. I have plenty, but
I have a
We can
question,
answer the
Nancy.
counselor one. Okay, I'm sorry, Ms. Freeman.
Nancy, I have one I want to add. So
Good.
this is a real life scenario. My children are in a different school district. However, we received a letter today stating that someone has tested positive. So my younger daughter cannot get vaccinated. So a colleague of mine, her daughter, I guess, was in close proximity, which means she had to quarantine. So I heard your definition of what quarantine is. But the problem is, do parents really understand that? So that means that parent has to stop work or have to have someone to provide care for them. So what are you doing in that way to educate the parents? Like, okay, if your daughter or son is in close proximity within that 15 minutes, you're going to have some type of daycare for them while they're quarantined. So how are you addressing that to the parents?
Well, one of the initial strategies that we've been doing, in addition to posting information throughout our website, we've been doing town hall meetings. So these town hall meetings have been with all of the board districts. I've also done a presentation with the state and one with the county in terms of the research that's on this particular COVID-19, how kids are more resilient. However, in terms of the policies, in terms of the practices of exposure management and dealing with the quarantine period, those are some of the things that we try to make sure that everyone is aware, whether it's through these town hall meetings, through additional meetings with principals, as well as other individuals. But one of the things that has come up is the County Department of Public Health has reduced that quarantine period for students that are vaccinated due to the fact that they have an additional layer of protection. And until we get out of the emergency use authorization for younger ages, we can, the requirement now is 12 and above. So I know that the studies are going through, they're working diligently to get the vaccination available for younger, but they don't want to rush. CDC does not recommend rushing those vaccinations, but the idea is we want to take our precautions, which we understand it's a strain. I can imagine for many parents, we definitely understand that.
Another question from Isabel, another good one. Has LAUSD hired more counselors? LAUSD is known for too few counselors. So were you able to hire more?
I can jump on that one. And so this ties into, so we are hiring counselors, and I can say that there's definitely an investment to hire more counselors. So let me just jump on the I want to share with our group the elementary and secondary schools emergency relief grant. And so it's for short ESSER, and Ms. Rene kind of ties into the article that you sent today. But the ESSER 3 funding is the third act of federal funding that the district is receiving. It is one-time money. It is for ESSER 3, it is $2.6 billion. And it's quite a sum of money. And looking at the allowable uses, there really are two focus areas from the federal government, and looking at the CD website with this. So it's academic, support for students, which is academic or social emotional support. And the second focus area is on health and safety. Anything that has to do with health and safety, COVID testing, vaccinations, the air filters, anything, PPE, anything to do with health and safety on our campuses. So currently what we've done, and I've spent a lot of time over the summer doing engagement sessions, focus groups with all of our stakeholders, our parents, our staff, our teachers, our administrators. I mean, just every wide range. Our local tribes, community partners, just kind of think of all of the engagement we've done. And so we have heard from our groups, from our students also, about the need for counselors. And so what we're working on at this point right now is looking at all of the investments that we had in place, supports for students that we're currently doing from previous funding. What are we going to move into ESSER 3? What are we going to continue doing? And what are the new investments that we're going to put in place to support our students? So counselors, we've heard loud and clear to hire more counselors, and that is under consideration right now. So this ESSER plan goes to the school board by the end of October, and then it's submitted to the California Department of Education by October 29th. So that's quite a bit of the work that I have personally been involved with the team there. So yes, so go back to counselors. Yes, we do need.
So
In addition,
I was just going to
Dr. Webb?
say the follow-up to that, of course, is finding counselors, finding teachers, finding substitutes. I understand that that's a real issue, that there are people that are just not willing to work in this environment. I hope I'm wrong, but I have a feeling that that's part of the issue as well.
well, just to add to what Mr. Hanson was sharing, in terms of our counselors, we are actually hiring currently, and we've hired quite a few within the Black Student Achievement Program plan. I'm not sure if you guys are aware of that, but that was $51 million that was dedicated to supporting the efforts in schools that have been identified as within these particular areas. So we have psychiatric social workers, we have pupil services and attendance counselors that have been hired. We've also hired school climate advocates, which we're looking at supports for students for like a mentoring type of de-escalating type of personnel on campus to help prevent any kind of issues on campus. And you may have heard issues in board meetings about the school police not being on campus. However, they are available to respond for the more serious incidents. But we do want personnel to kind of work with students more to help guide them when they are in crisis, so that they aren't making bad decisions. We want to work with them and provide the support. So we still do have some vacancies. I think that in terms of our teachers and substitutes, we are still in good shape, but we do have some vacancies that we are filling, and we are looking at, we reach out to local universities so that we can grab those individuals that are ideal for our schools and working with our students as soon as they graduate and get them into our schools.
We have a question from Ernesto. one of-
Ernesto had his hand up. Ernesto,
Yes. Hi there. Yes, I have 4 students in LAUSD. So I have a couple questions. One is for elementary school level. I have my boy that he was positive. He had COVID before the school started. And I guess when you take a test, you continue to show positive, even though you're not contagious anymore. But because of that, he stayed home for like 2 weeks before, when school started, and he didn't get no instructions. There was no virtual learning, nothing available. So I know in your presentation, you mentioned that there'll be virtual learning if you test positive. But I wonder if there's resources for that for schools in South LA, because it sounds like there was no type of resources and nobody knew what my students should do besides stay home and do nothing all day. And my second question, I saw the mandate to vaccines by January 1st, but I'm also getting information that, excuse me, that that the Pfizer vaccine has only been FDA approved for 16 and up. So how is that going to be legally enforced for kids that are younger than 16 years old?
So with,
Go
oh,
ahead.
go ahead.
Let me do the first question, Dr. Webb. You can do the second
Okay.
one.
All
So
right.
on the first one, sounding like the first 2 weeks of school, our guidance for our schools came out after that. So I apologize on that first 2 weeks, but our guidance for our teachers and our principals came out after that about providing that continuity of learning and making sure that instruction continues. So if your son was sick now and at home, they would be receiving that instruction virtually. So it would continue now. So Dr.
Okay.
Second part.
And the good thing is that, well, I say not necessarily a good thing, but once you are tested positive, you don't have to test for another 90 days because it is possible that if you test again within the 90 days, it'll show as positive, but you aren't contagious past the first 10 days. In terms of the virtual and in terms of the actual medication, the types of vaccinations that are available currently, I think it was the other way around. I think Pfizer is available for 12 and above. I need to.
But I hear it's not FDA approved for 12 and above. The FDA approval was only for 16 and above.
I would need to confirm, but I know that there was the clearance to go for 12 and above. My son actually did. No, that was Moderna. Moderna is cleared for 12 and above. So that's what's the required. That's what's required for the students that age.
And I think see the question in the chat too about any vendors or contractors being on a campus. So it is for any of our adults being on a campus. Yes, working at one of any of our sites, districts or school sites. So the as far as our employees, they are required for the vaccination also.
One of the things that I think may very well happen is that the two of you have sat together and you have the plans that you think are going to work, and you think you've presented them to the schools, and the parents think they've presented them to the parents, but in the middle of all that, there's misunderstandings. And misunderstandings that make it very difficult for parents if now they're taking off work and losing money because it's the only option they have to take care of their children. So I'm hoping that we can set up, just kind of an email tree, if you will, so that any parents watching that you didn't have a chance to ask your questions, you felt that your question was not understood, you want more information, that we can do that so that we can get good information. And if you think that you've been given the wrong information by your principal or by your child's counselors and so forth, that we have a way to work those things out, because this is really a challenge. I don't think we've ever been through anything like this, where we are trying to do this and we're almost, you have to make decisions on the fly because you've made one set of guidelines and then something else comes up and you realize, whoops, we got to go back and rethink that. So I just hope that the parents who are on this call, or parents as you're speaking to your own networks, other parents in your schools, other people that are, picking your kids up from school, that we can find a way to get all of this resolved, because it's very challenging for our parents and for our families when they have to pivot right away and their situation is just very difficult.
That's right. Well, so one of the other things that are coming up, as you guys are aware, Halloween activities and fall festivals, those are some of the things we'll be providing guidance to schools. I have a call in the morning with the county, and we'll seek any additional input based on the latest research on the cases throughout the county. And we'll get that information out. We have a focus group with principals, as well as a focus group with students, in terms of looking at the best and the safest approach to these types of activities. Of course, we want kids to continue wearing face masks, but if they have on a full mask, which we typically don't recommend, we won't be able to determine if they're wearing a face mask underneath. So there's certain things that we have to be cognizant of as parents. We want to make sure we always are our kids are in the safest environment as possible. So the biggest thing is wearing their mask when they're in public and maximizing the distance. Market, you're not going to stand really close to someone. If you're at a Rams game, you're going to try to keep your mask on, even if you're cheering or whatever the case may be. If you're out doing various things, you want to make sure that that you are trying not to breathe in others' air droplets.
All right, we've gone 4 minutes over. I want to thank the two of you, Dr. Webb, Mr. Hansen. Thank you for speaking with us. Thank you for the efforts you put into all of the PowerPoints and the graphs and charts and all of that stuff. And again, I would encourage anyone, if you didn't have a question or you think of questions later, you can always address them to LA South Chamber at outlook.com, and we will get those. And if you gentlemen don't mind, we will then send those questions on to you and ask you to respond. It could be that we might have to ask you to come back in 4 weeks or so. Do you think that might be a possibility?
Well, hopefully our numbers are down by then. Typically, the county has shared for the other surges that when the actual cases drop, they drop significantly. However, there was the recent Labor Day. So no, we understand that there's a bump usually after holidays, because we have people that are unvaccinated that tend to
Right.
pass it
Right.
on, so
Right.
we want to make sure that so if we think possibly by next week we should see any extra cases, and then expect to see a quick drop off right after then,
Right.
hopefully. And that's but we still want people to be vaccinated in the event that the next virus that comes around, we are ready for it, just as we've done vaccinations for TB, vaccinations for measles, mumps, rubella. We get them and we got them and we're good. So
Yeah, that's why we don't have polio anymore.
yeah. That's it.
Yep. All right, Larcy, I'm going to turn the meeting back over to you. And gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time and sharing the information with us.
Thank you. It's our pleasure.
Well, thank you also for attending, everyone. We would like for you to save the date on for October 13th. We will be having another parent network. We don't have the subject at this time because it's always changing. But if we have your email information, we'll send you out the notice, or if you would like to get on our email list, please put your email in the chat. And thank you again. And Dexter, do you have any final words before we sign off for tonight?
Thank you very much. Thank you all for joining. God bless you.
All right. Thank you and good night.
Okay, have a good night, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night. Bye-bye. Thank you for attending.